Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this webinar this morning. Let's get real. Cyber intelligence use cases for everyday defense. We have our presenter, Saurabh La from CYFIRMA, President for Research, Delivery and Operations, handling this morning's webinar. Saurabh will be discussing cyber intelligence and its use cases, and we have identified 9 use cases for all our cyber defenders today. And we do know that cyber intelligence can mean many different things to different folks. And sometimes it's just a simple data feed that goes into a SIM or SOAR platform. And other times it can actually be the most powerful asset in our cyber defense arsenal. So effective cyber intelligence can help us identify threat actors, campaigns, and assets which are being targeted. It will also empower us with insights to bolster our attack surface management, vulnerability management, and patch management programs. So today, we want to understand the importance of cyber intelligence and how to apply it to business and technology decision-making, and why we should change threat hunting to intelligence hunting to strengthen our cyber posture. So Saurabh, over to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to such a bright, sunny morning here in Singapore. I'll be your host today, representing CYFIRMA, and really running through some of the use cases, but starting first with why cyber intelligence? Why is there a requirement to move away from an event-driven approach to an intelligence-driven approach? And what are the key takeaways, how we as cyber defenders can actually defend our organization and our organization's crown jewels. So thank you for joining me, and over the next 40 minutes, I'll run you through the details. So let's get started. Okay. Just at a glance, I represent CYFIRMA, a very an organization that was conceived in 2017 by our chairman, founder, Kumar Ritesh, who is also the CEO, comes with a first-hand experience of how intelligence should be consumed and should be delivered, given that he was ex-government intelligence head and size of a big resourcing organization. In fact, comes from MI6. So in 2017, we were conceived, and today we are looking at 60+ team members. 4 offices globally, headquartered in Singapore, Japan, with the offices in India and US. We boast of many Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 organizations, as well as key partnerships and reference clients who are really pioneer of what a country like Japan has actually established itself as a powerhouse in all the areas. At the cornerstone or the center stage of CYFIRMA's offering is the best-in-class SaaS product, which is called Decipher, which has really garnered many recognitions and multiple awards. As I mentioned, many Fortune 100 and 500 organizations really, and we have a very passionate set of 60+ team members globally, distributed, who really deliver a wow factor for our customers and really consumable, making the difference intelligence so that organizations are better prepared for cyber criminals, for defending against cyber criminals. Now let's start looking at the situation of what we are facing today, right? Today's security operations are reactive. Why do we say reactive? Is because most of our operations, most of our strategic viewpoints is always about, hey, what has happened in the past? Do we have an IOC? Do we have an understanding of any malicious IP address that has been used? Or is there any vulnerability that is being exploited? And what about it? Or was there an incident? And it's really trying to concentrate at what has happened in the past and how can I protect my organization. But a key point is it is reactive. It is something that has already happened. We are not preparing ourselves for what is the current state or what is going to be the future state or what is going to be coming our way. Now, take it to the next step from reactive to proactive is where your digital risk and your brand risk information about your impersonations, your fake SNS accounts, or any sensitive information being leaked really comes about, and also comes about the fact that do we understand the adversary? Do we understand what are the techniques currently being used, or is there any information about some of the past attacks and the campaigns they are really running? And this is being driven by most of the OSINT sources. You have some TI vendors and quite many of professional researchers who will come out with a very important assessment of what has happened in the past. But what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is to be predictive. Guys, intelligence is never about what has happened in the past. It's almost like going into the battlefield and waiting for the first soldier to appear from the other side and then start to identify, hey, you know, how many columns, how many infantries, what are the tools and ammunition the other side has. It works exactly the same way in the cyber world. You need to know what are those threats which are coming your way. It usually starts with understanding your porous attack surface, right? Discovering those, trying to understand what is it about the vulnerabilities or intelligence around vulnerabilities so that you are better equipped and better prepared to understand and possibly predict the threats which might be coming your way. What is really the motive of those cyber criminals? Why are you getting phishing emails? Why you are getting malware attacks, or why you are getting some of those impersonations? What are they really after? You know, and what are those kind of attacks which might be planned by those threat actors? The who, why, what, when, how, which is the basic foundation pillars of an intelligence, right? Any active campaign, something that is running now, not something that has been executed in the past, right? What is the change of those campaigns? Has it changed from reconnaissance to an active exploitation of a vulnerability? Has it changed from exploitation of one particular vulnerability to another in that particular software or product that they are targeting? And where possibly this could be leading into? Is it associated to a geopolitical event which is running out there? And specifically, what assets are they really after? Unless we are able to identify all these as security operators, we will always remain within the paradigm of event triggering our response, and we'll always be responding to an event. We'll never be able to move from a event driven to an intelligence driven approach. And that is where, you know, the our brand of threat intelligence and cyber intelligence as well as threat discovery comes in. Now, look at all the pieces that should be really provided from an effective cyber intelligence platform. It is all about trying to understand, are there any specific early warnings or indicators that can be presented to a cyber defender or security operations that, hey, here are the things, here is what is coming your way, be prepared. Another classic example is security operations. I see, and I've managed quite a few. You start with so many alerts coming your way, and operators are always busy in trying to identify, is this a real threat or is this false positive? We need to be able to empower those operations teams to understand that, all right, here's the priority, look at the highest priority and then go next and then go next. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the false positives are really reduced. And this can be only done after when we can provide deep understanding of those cyber threats coming your way. Just giving a simple conversation that HackerRay discussed about something about an organization in a forum is not going to give really anybody any understanding of what is this threat about, what is HackerRay really interested in, what is it about me that is really exciting those threat actors, right? Which leads to the fact that it should be comprehensive view. And I usually give this kind of an example that, look, comprehensive and contextual intelligence is absolutely important and key to cyber intelligence and threat discovery. If you tell, as an example, taking an example from the real world scenario, right? If you go and tell somebody that, all right, there's going to be an antisocial act happening somewhere in the world, I, as an individual, will be worried, but will I be impacted? No. But if that intelligence is as comprehensive and as contextual as that event is going to happen in the country where I'm residing, in the capital city of country, and right outside my residential block, the tone and texture of my response and the ability for me to muster all my resources and defend my interests and my loved ones against that will be at a different scale. And that is why it is important that, you know, we are not blindsiding ourselves. We are able to validate things like, what is the first thing that comes into the mind? Well, your attack surface. We're able to validate the vulnerability intelligence about it. Yes, you might have 3,000 vulnerabilities being identified out there by a Qualys scan, but do we have an understanding of which of those vulnerabilities are being exploited? How are they being exploited? Are there any cyber attacks happening? Are there any trends that are being viewed in terms of campaigns which are active in the wild? Is there a particular brand of cyber criminals or threat actors which are really, exploiting this? Are there any certificates out there which are really expiring? And the importance of all this is, and we'll cover that in the next slide as well, is to be able to be presented all these in the same view. The game here is not looking at 7, 8, 10 different platforms and expecting a human set of eyeballs to really join the dots and really identify. And by the time that person has already finished doing that activity, well, everything has changed out there, because cyber criminals are not just waiting for defenders like us and operators like us to wait and finish our analysis and then they'll start to the next one. They are always on the move. What is important is, can we help prioritize? Now, when you look at some of those intelligence associated to vulnerabilities, when you look at those attack surfaces, when you look at your vulnerabilities that you are facing in some of your IT systems which are exposed, or maybe some of those processes and people, well, you need to be able to provide cyber defenders and operators an ability to prioritize that. No operations in the world can do everything at the same time, in a very shortest possible span of time. And these indicators are always important, always changing. Can we validate and improve our attack surface and vulnerability management program? It's all about risk management, right? What are we really managing on a day-to-day basis? I ask everybody, and the only simple answer I can come up with based on inputs that we get from some of my industry practitioners is, ultimately, we are always into managing our external threat landscape and our external risk. All of us are risk managers. It's all about, reducing the risk of a cyber criminal really hunting our brand or our organization, to be able to cater to across the hierarchy. So you need a kind of an offering that can help the strategic level or the strategic management in giving them a risk view and helping them making a decision. You need a kind of a view that can help, provide you a journey-based or a hierarchy-based assessment of per area, so that you can go deep into it and you can address all those pieces. As well as you need a view wherein operators are presented the latest and the greatest operational indicators at the same time, together with prioritization, so they understand, all right, at this point of time, here is the latest and the greatest. Let me start by the one which is the highest at a risk score, and then really work my way through, rather than waiting for all the indicators to be assessed and trying to use a carpet bombing technique and trying to address everything at the same time, and really losing on return on ROI or our response that needs to be fastened for some of those pieces that are really actively being exploited in the wild. To be able to instantly address and press queries. So, hey, what about this vulnerability? Is it getting associated to a particular campaign? Or what about this IP address? Which threat actor is utilizing it? Or what campaign is it part of? Or is it being utilized to put in a particular malware implant out there? You need to be able to address all those, rather than, going to 7, 10 different OSINT tools and providers and trying to really join the dots. Everything needs to be there in one place, which is where holistic view is really important. You should have an ability as part of a recommended approach to be able to enrich your team and source solutions, as well as give you a speed of reaction for any incident response. Yes, there will be always incidents in cybersecurity space. You will never have a silver bullet. There are only 2 stages in cybersecurity. 1, you are hacked and you know, and 2, you are hacked and you don't know. And most of the people or most of the organizations are in the second category. So is there something that we can provide as part of a comprehensive external threat analysis to help our cyber defenders really speed up the incident response? That is the need of the hour. Know what data or what information or what infringement is really happened around your brand, or is there any impersonation being run out there which can lead to, you know, reputational damage, stakeholder management fiascos, your shareholder management fiascos really out there coming to your organization. But more importantly, you know, it is all about for a effective cyber intelligence platform. It's all about trying to make sure your employees, your business partners, your third-party contractors, or any other component of that ecosystem is made aware of is there something out there that has been compromised? Is there a potential or a possibility of an insider threat utilizing, you know, a digital medium to go and leak out your confidential information? Let's say you are selecting or you are submitting a series of RFP. Imagine if that Excel sheet goes and is exposed out there in a slide share or a public medium. You need to know, otherwise, well, you're going to run out of the business in the very business that you're aiming to excel, right? It's about awareness of emails and credentials being leaked out there. Hey, all of us are part of various forums, are part of various channels, and quite a many times we won't even know, and our email ID is leaked out, our credentials could be leaked out, or the tone and texture of how an email ID is being created in an organization leaks out, which really leads into a possible phishing campaign that can be very easily articulated by even a petty cyber criminal. You don't need a state-sponsored threat actor to really execute that, right? So we have to be careful and we have to be aware of that. We have to make sure that, yes, are there any changes to compliances? Are there any changes to, you know, any regulations out there? If you all remember, many months ago, GDPR compliance has kicked in, and we saw a really heavy uptick in phishing campaigns attributed to fines associated with GDPR. And organizations were taken by surprise, and most of these phishing campaigns actually did have quite a fair amount of success rate, because it was all about the fear. It was all about not being able to understand, is there a new piece out there that needs to be complied into, or how will it really pan out into? And that is what cyber criminals really use. They always look and try to use anything about fear, anything about anxiety, anything about not being clear, and basically exploiting the weakest link, which is a human resource by all means. So, well, social engineering and phishing campaign, we need to know a little bit more about that, how it is impacting the organization or could impact the organization, how's the risk posture, and are there any new insights about it? But more importantly, hey, as an organization, what is my risk profile? Based on a combination of all the pieces that have been uncovered for an outside-in view, that is comprising of the movers and shakers in the external threat landscape and risk landscape, what is my overall risk profile looking as an organization? And what is the applicability of each of those risk areas or risks identified to me getting hacked as an organization or as a defender by a cyber criminal? Is it about, you know, a particular attack surface component that can be exposed? Is it about vulnerability intelligence, any of those vulnerabilities being impacted on, utilized, or being exploited in the wild? Is it about any other parameter that really makes the organization and the cyber defender a very lucrative target? And at the end of it, for any organization, for any operations, it is all about activating and prioritizing and optimizing the resources. You can have 3,000 observations. It will be practically impossible to really address all of them within a day or within a few hours. You need to be able to know how to prioritize. Which direction should I go to? All right, here are the threats coming from. Maybe we should start prioritizing as part of our cybersecurity strategy. We should start prioritizing as these initiatives which will help us address the threats that might be coming across. It's all about that. So all these and many more, I mean, we can go on, and I can discuss about another 100, 200 pointers on this. But this, in a nutshell, are the basic minimum criteria that an effective cyber intelligence platform should deliver as benefit to the organization and to the cyber defender. All right. let's look at the recommended approach, right? So we have discussed about the benefits, but hey, your cyber intelligence platform, how can it really deliver those benefits? So there are usually, or CYFIRMA's brand of cyber intelligence propagates 6 pillars on a single pane of glass. It is very important. It has to be single pane of glass. You cannot have 10, 20 different tools and go looking and tying the dots, in your Siemens source solution. That is absolutely never going to work. So the very first point about threat discovery leading into cyber intelligence is all going to be about, attack surface discovery. Identify those doors and windows. What are those gaps in your infrastructure layer? What are those gaps in your processes? What are those gaps in people that is really going to, lead into any cyber criminal exploiting that? It could be about shadow IT. It could be about any porous system out there. It could be misconfigurations. It could be, well, there are so many vulnerabilities in the certificate that has been installed, or in the way ports have been opened, or there could be any other piece out there that could be easily exploited by these cyber criminals. It could be about process gaps. Maybe the vulnerability management and patch management is really not up to the mark based on what is required out there for organizations to address the kind of threats that they need to protect themselves against. It could be about people. It could be about people gap that people don't know. There is a bigger overturn in the number of people, and they really do not know what kind of process to be implemented or how that process to be implemented, which is leading to all these gaps really getting identified, so to say. So the business outcome will be really all about awareness. Then obviously moving to the next stage, which is vulnerability intelligence, identifying the doors and windows. Hey, what do cyber defenders currently do if there is a zero-day vulnerability? We just wait. We just wait for the product vendor to launch an attack. Our brand of cyber intelligence helps people understand, are there any exploits in the wild? Is it part of a campaign? Is there a cyber threat actor or a cyber criminal which is exploiting this? Is there a particular malware associated to this? Are there any other IOCs as part of common campaign infrastructure or specific campaign infrastructure which is being utilized to exploit these vulnerabilities? So look at it in this way, right? While we are waiting for those patches to come in and people are trying to, test those patches, implement those patches, it is all about trying to empower the cyber defenders and operators that, hey, till the patch comes in, please take these actions. Please put this in your cybersecurity controls to make sure that your cyber posture management is more rock solid, rather than waiting and being at the mercy of cyber criminal who's going to, just exploit one of those vulnerability out there. All about your brand intelligence. Are there any infringements out there? Is somebody interested in what we have as our IP? Is it because of an insider threat? Is it because of a competitive threat? Is it because somebody is just creating one of those infringed products out there, copying, which leads to a reputational damage as well as financial damage? It's all understanding about anything that is impacting and that is a risk to the brand. Your digital risk protection is all about telling you, as part of your critical digital profile, right? What are those data leaks? Are there breaches? Are there impersonations out there? So that you have a clear understanding of what's really happening out there, what is getting leaked out there, so you can start plugging those gaps and you can save any reputational or financial damage, and you can make the posture more robust. Also about situational awareness, right? What is really happening out there in the industry? Are there any trends? Have the cyber attacks moved from, let's say, Northern America geography to Asia based on a particular vulnerability which is being exploited out there? Are there any new trends that needs to be understood based on the industrial geography I as an organization is operating in? And last but not the least is all about cyber intelligence, answering the very key pointers which we discussed about who, why, what, when, how. And let me move to the next slide to give you a little bit more understanding of what is this about. The cyber intelligence is all about 3 layers. Strategic intelligence, help you understand who's really interested in you. What is that cyber criminal? What is its profile? What's its motivation? And why are they really interested in you? It must be something about motivating them towards you as an organization, maybe your crown jewels, or maybe because of the geopolitical storm that is running out there, or maybe because of our attack surface being absolutely porous. Anything of those. So it's important to understand the adversary. That is where the strategic intelligence layer comes in. What are they really after? What are they after? Is it PII data? Is it CII data? Is it any IP that we are having, the way we are operating our business or our competitive advantage? It can be any of those. And when possibly they are able to attack, or what is their readiness of attack, and where such an attack could come. I remember working for an organization where it was very clear that at one particular point of time, at one particular point of time when the results were being released, there would be really ample amount of interest from one particular country. So it's all about trying to understand that, oh, it's because of the timing which is out there, and this is where this particular attack or series of attacks could be really launched from, right? And then ultimately, yes, how ready are they to launch an attack? What are those IOCs? What are those malwares? What are those tools and techniques that are really applicable out there? Any cyber intelligence, if it does not cover all these three areas, and if it just provides you as an example, hey, here is 1 million IOCs, please go and block it into your cybersecurity defenses or your SIEM SOAR telemetry systems. Guys, that is not intelligence, that is noise. All right, let's continue the conversation. So we have to apply the three layers, right? The strategic intelligence has to help you understand what is your current threat landscape, what is the threat actor profile. Is there anything about what is happening in your industry, geography, and technology that you need to be aware of? And as we had discussed, what is your real-time external exposure score or your risk score as an organization, and what is your hackability score? So that the management is aware that, all right, based on our risk assessment, this is what is my viewpoint looking like, and now let's try to understand and let's try to assess the trends, and let's try to address it in such a manner that the risk and the hackability assessment and the external threat landscape and the external risk of the organization can be reduced. At the management intelligence level, right, what are those campaigns that are targeting the assets? Is there anything related to attack surface that I as an organization should be aware of that I am currently missing? Shadow IT is a brilliant example out there. You know, any external assets or brand value that is impacting my brand, and that is the intelligence about the exposures or infringements about the brand. Intelligence about what are the vulnerabilities out there that are being exploited, and how my as a patch management and vulnerability management program should be supporting that. Is there anything related to the assets publicly identifiable out there that I should be looking into? Do I have a comprehensive view of my digital risk? Do I know, is there any third-party code being presented in a GitHub or a Pastebin site? Do I know if any sensitive information is being leaked out there? Do I know are my credentials leaked out there for my key executives? It's all about those pieces. And then finally, yes, the tactical intelligence needs to be applied in terms of latest IOCs, which are personalized and which are specific to the organization. There is no point of giving an IOC of a threat actor who is active in US to somebody in Asia, because most likely it will not be an imminent threat. So there is no point of allocating resources from a security apparatus in trying to address that particular IOC. It's all about the early identification of those domains that are being impersonated or data breaches and leaks. And last but not the least, of course, are there any public or private malicious malware or phishing campaigns that are really running out there? So if you see how the intelligence really applies and what are the kind of insights being provided, it should now start to make sense that how intelligence can be provisioned in a manner that it is consumable, in a manner that it can help us as cyber defenders defend against a kind of an attack that might be planned, or to be aware of what are those exposures and exploits out there that we should be looking into. We've all seen the cyber kill chain, and it's all about trying to identify what is happening during the reconnaissance, weaponization, and really well before that during the planning stage. Because if you are just waiting to react once the delivery has happened and once the exploitation is started, as cyber defenders, we are always going to be reactive. As cyber defenders, as operators, security operators, we are always going to move from one incident to another incident to another incident, and we will continue that perpetually. We need to start understanding a bit more of why this is coming our way. We need to be able to discover these threats. We need to be able to manage those external landscapes and risks and be able to understand the adversary and why really they are after, rather than just doing the reactive pieces. So we'll start by running through some of the use cases, 9 in particular, but wanted to understand, help you understand that, how a customer, as an example, can utilize this to optimize their decision making. You'll have executives looking at your threat landscape and risk landscape to help in their strategic decision making so that they can identify and prioritize what are some of those decisions and discussion points or some of those initiatives they need to run, or what are some of those initiatives they need to pull back. It's all about, knowing your enemy, which is. It's all about understanding your threat actor and TTPs, as well as discovering attack surface and vulnerabilities at the management layer, and trying to detect digital risk and breach data, and of course, presenting some of those attacks by consuming some of those API feeds. So it's all about decision making and risk-based view. It's all about planning countermeasures and assessments and security training so that at an management level, things are better sorted. And it's all about trying to remediate and request for any additional insights or inputs on a particular set of scenarios that is being faced by your organization, and ultimately, enhance your day-to-day operational posture. So we'll run through 9 use cases. It will start from knowing the enemy. Enemy here is a cyber criminal that is really operating out there, so that you are able to track some of those groups. You are able to understand what are those effective countermeasures that can be implemented and really answer all the pieces of who, why. It will then also talk about seeing from a hacker's view. Yes, we have a good understanding of how the organization perimeter looks like and within the perimeter, but do we have an understanding of how are we appealing to that cyber criminal out there, right? And finally, utilize that to carry out intelligence hunting based on tactical intelligence which is being presented out there. So let's look at each one of these. Oops. Okay, I'm sorry, the slide is moving a little bit faster than intended. The first one will be advise security teams based on campaigns being tracked, right? So it's all about receiving any real-time information about what are those insights about those campaigns which are relevant to you as an organization. It's not about trying to understand anything and everything out there in the world. Yes, there is an ability to carry out threat hunting and discover some of those pieces which are happening out there if you want to understand all those campaigns. And these are a group of activities being executed by cyber criminals in a manner to achieve one particular clear set of goals, or to utilize a particular malware or tool set to execute their objectives by targeting you as an organization for various reasons, right? So at CYFIRMA, in this cipher, we track almost 700 plus campaigns, giving you real-time information of, how this impacts, right, your threat landscape, right? You can very clearly understand the who, why, what of these, right? And then it gives you a view of those campaign-specific TTPs, which are targeting specific industries, specific geographies, so that as an organization, you are able to plan the cyber strategy better, and you are able to build up more robust security controls. It gives you all the information about when was this campaign first seen, what's the overall description, what is the risk score out there specific to the campaign, which is applicable to you. It's not a generic risk score. What are those TTPs or associated threat actors or targeted industries, geographies, technologies, any information related to malwares or IOCs, any graph analytics out there which is trying to help you understand that is there a common campaign infrastructure being shared with some other campaign or some other threat actor out there. So you are able to understand the complete threat story, the complete risk dossier associated to it, starting from a single point, which is all about one particular campaign being executed by a particular threat actor. Now imagine, right, why would this be important? Well, this will help you understand how the operation of that particular threat actor is changing over a period of time. What are the trends that are being seen as part of this particular operations? Is there a new version of a malware of an older version that is being utilized? Is there something associated to the infrastructure that is being utilized by this particular threat actor? And can you see a specific trend of it moving from one particular industry to another geography to another technology or something out there? So we'll help cyber defenders understand what is the campaign all about, who's running it, what's the trend, so you are better prepared in understanding and arranging those security controls. Understanding the hacker profile, you need to be able to understand what is that adversary that you are up against. Is there a particular motive or a set of motives that they are running? Are there a list of 30 campaigns that they are running which are all having their own individual motives out there? Any TTPs, any recent activities, what get published, of course, in surface web, social media, but what is also captured by CYFIRMA as part of our predictive intelligence capability, understanding and monitoring most of these threat actors, which we track more than 400 plus. And what are the movers and shakers out there when it comes to these threat actors, really identifying some of those, utilizing rather some of those indicators, some of those IOCs, and is it really being shared? You can see very clearly a geographic graph trying to tell you what are the geographies and what are the countries that this particular threat actor is up against. So understanding all this will help cyber defenders, security operators really report the kind of threat this particular threat actor or cyber criminal poses to you as an organization. Helps make the security management understand better on why you need to do A, B, and C to defend against some of these cyber threats that might be coming through this particular threat actor. And of course, ultimately help in periodic threat hunting exercise out there. All right. Analyzing campaigns on dark web, which are specifically targeting, as I was explaining to you. We have an unmatched capability of tracking cyber criminals and those conversations specific to you as an organization based on the profile that is created. Our engines, our technology has the capability of understanding 28 different languages and really identifying a comprehensive length and breadth coverage of all those conversations or all those campaigns that are really at an early stage of planning so that you can quickly prevent an actual attack from being carried out. As you can see, as part of the external risk summary on the Cypher, you will be provided actual count of number of such campaigns which have been identified, which will give you a very clear understanding of who's this threat actor, what is the campaign about, is there any motivation, are they looking to exfiltrate any intellectual property or product information or sensitive information, how are they planning to launch, or how are they already executing some of those attacks out there? Is it by exploiting vulnerabilities or implanting specialized malwares? What are those key observations down to a date? And guys, this is dark web. This is not Google that you will get it in a very structured manner. Some of this information really runs through our engines, our probability models, our mathematical models, and our human intelligence capabilities, and the kind of observations we provide to our clients and customers really is not seen out there by any other service provider, and we are able to make a very clear difference to the deterrence that these organizations, some of which are Fortune 100, 500 companies, as well as small and medium businesses, really make a credible deterrence to some of these cyber attacks which might be coming their way. It is all about those observations, any specific date and timelines, conversations, references we have seen, any specific assets that have been identified, so that you can straight away go in, because it's all about consuming the intelligence. It's not about telling somebody something somewhere is happening and, well, we don't know what you need to do. Please get your security apparatus and security teams to really consume some of this information and identify what's the next steps. No, we provide very clear recommendations. We provide those controls and those strategy changes that you need to make based on some of these that might be coming your way. It's all about identifying and supporting our clients to make sure that, you know, they are able to execute those preventive measures before such an attack really gets realized. It's about protecting your attack surface from hackers' recon exercise, and attack surface is the first place how a cyber criminal can actually discover and exploit a threat against an organization. It can be, as we discussed some time back, it can be about your technology layer, your infrastructure layer, your processes, your people issues. It's about some of those shadow ITs. It's about some of those misconfigurations. It's about some of those vulnerabilities. It's about some of those open ports out there which are not properly controlled and managed. And each one of them come with their own risk rating, so that as an organization, you are able to understand, hey, what are those assets really that a cyber criminal can really, you know, exploit. And gone are the days, I hope all of us understand, gone are the days that somebody is looking for really one of those widely circulated and discussed vulnerabilities. All you need is a level 4 vulnerability being exploited, which is a low-level vulnerability. So it's all about tying up those pieces so that you can understand where it might be coming in. We had a critical, very classic example wherein an organization had initiated a particular adoption of new functionality and new module, and they just forgot all about their QA environment. And that was something that was being eyed by some of those cyber criminals. So it's about identifying and giving you that comprehensive view in one single dashboard, so that you do not need to look beyond this particular dashboard, and you have everything identified out there that you as operations and cyber defenders can really look into. A very simple example of if you search into one of these domains, and we have masked some of the details, we were able to identify 618 subdomains. 548 of them were resolving to a particular IP address, out of which 115 were potentially vulnerable. So Decipher and the brand of cyber intelligence and threat discovery capabilities we provide you actually goes multi-level. It goes from a dashboard view to the next layer, to the next layer, to the next layer, all down to at least 9 different layers that you can really attribute and view and contribute and validate in one single pane of glass. I repeat, it is one single view where you are able to correlate, attribute, slice and dice information so that you are better prepared in defending against some of these cyber attacks. Vulnerability intelligence is about identifying those critical vulnerabilities. Hey, you get a scan done out there and you have 3,000 vulnerabilities. You are just going to start from critical, high, medium, low. But what if there is a low-level vulnerability out there which is being heavily exploited by the threat actor? Guess what is going to happen? The organization is going to take 3 to 6 months to patch that. By that time, it will be long over. Because if the cyber criminal is really interested in exploiting, most likely you will get hacked and you will not even know. Or most likely there will be a reconnaissance which will be launched against your organization that can be further exploited into. So it's about identifying those vulnerabilities really, right, which are relevant to you, which can be exploited. It's about intelligence around those vulnerabilities, those zero-day attacks, and really giving you a comprehensive threat story, which is the functionality of our risk dossier and Decipher. Taking a point of a vulnerability, correlating it to, is there any exploit out there? Are there any software assets that are impacted for the organization? You as an organization, should you be worried about a campaign that a particular threat actor is executing? Is there an associated malware to it? Are there any IOCs or campaign infrastructure which is being utilized that you should be blocking immediately so that the cyber controls are more powerful and the defense is a little bit more stronger? And more importantly, should we learn from any of those cyber attacks out there? So you take one data point and you present a comprehensive risk story around it or a threat story around it. That is what vulnerability intelligence provides, which is where the vulnerability management processes and the patch management processes will gain immensely, because now we are not just dependent on a scan being done within our perimeter. We are just not dependent on a patch being released by a software product vendor. We are able to understand a bit more about what is happening out there, how this particular vulnerability can be exploited, what I as a security operations center head or security operations center personnel, or what I as a cyber defender should be doing so that my organization and my crown jewels are well saved and looked after. It's about digital risk. Digital risk is nothing about telling you very proactively what is really happening out there and what are some of those proactive steps that you should be taking in. Is there an identified website which is mimicking your brand, which is associated as an example by one threat actor? This is a clear example, and you are redirected to it. How are you going to identify all that? You don't need to run through different tools and different scans out there. You just need to go and get onto Decipher, and it will give you all that information out there. And it will also tell you whether this is malicious, any impacts out there being utilized as part of the risk dossier function, which we just clearly discussed. It's all about, are there any data leaks? Are there any data breaches out there? Any credentials, any password hashes, any user IDs being leaked out there, which can be utilized by cyber criminals to really launch a phishing attack or a malware implant oriented attack towards you as an organization. It's all about trying to provide clients capability to protect themselves against some of these attacks, and to be able to identify in near real time or at a faster pace on what are those breached information or accounts that you should be really looking into. More importantly, at a tactical level, right? How can cyber defenders and security operations centers really consume the intelligence that is being presented by Decipher, right? It's about getting those real-time collections. It's not about getting a pair of eyeballs looking at what is changing and what is the latest and greatest and start acting and reacting on that. It's about how to consume that and present that in graph analytics or different ways, and trying to connect the dots and give you a risk dossier view in the platform. But it is also about consuming it via APIs and CSV so that you can do a better job at your SIEM solution, in your AETR AV solution, your detecting of any of those unauthorized communication at your firewalls, or blocking some of those accesses, or really detecting malware and making sure that they really don't imprint into your organization's landscape before really going ahead and doing a reactive piece. And in all totality, really supporting any of those incident response processes and vulnerability management. So it's about receiving that visibility. It is very important to understand that having a visibility of those threats that are being discovered, having a visibility of what's really happening in your external threat landscape and what's really impacting your cyber risk and how is it impacting, that is absolutely important, and that is gold class information that needs to be delivered out of any cybersecurity or cyber intelligence and threat discovery platform, which Decipher really excels in. Gives you an understanding of how really these threat actors are really targeting and enrich your database out there. Leading to the second last use case we'll be discussing today, it's all about hunting based on detected indicators. You can pick up an indicator, you can drill down into how it is being associated with. In this particular case, this particular example, it was associated with 3 threat actors, namely Cozy Bear, APT41, and Lazarus Group. You can drill down into the details of that particular threat actor profile, any understanding of the comprehensive threat story around that particular IP address. Is it being utilized by only one or multiple threat actors? Is it part of a campaign that is impacting you as an organization because of the nature of your organization or the industry geography or technology you're operating in? Is it about identifying any other linkages out there that, hey, based on this particular IP address in that particular campaign infrastructure or any other infrastructure that the threat actor is utilizing, what are those other indicators which are out there, so that you have an understanding that it's just not one IP, but what is the comprehensive threat story around, so that you can enhance your threat hunting capability and utilize this to really provide and understand the evidence of taking out some of those actions and presenting it to your management and presenting it to the client, so that there is enough visibility present in the short term and you have a better understanding of how this will be propagating further and moving into. And last but not the least, it's about understanding those malwares which are targeting those geographies, those industries, those technologies which are presented here, all relevant to you. All these use cases, all this information that is being shown to you, that is all personalized to you as an organization. There is no generic information out there. That's not how Decipher and CYFIRMA works. It is all about specific to the organization, specific to the threats, external threats and external risks we see for the organization, right? Listing the malware based on technologies, geographies and industries, which is relevant to you. Identifying the details of what are those associated threat actors which have been utilizing this. Are there any campaigns associated to it? Is there any particular industry, geography, or technology it is impacting in? Do you have an understanding of the YARA rules, Sigma rules, SNOT rules? Do you have an understanding of the IOCs that are being utilized to propagate this malware in this organization? So it's all about trying to tell you a little bit more, rather than just saying, hey, here is the malware. If you are impacted, here is the description key, or please go ahead and just block this particular file hash so that it should not be there in your environment. That is just event-driven approach. It is not intelligence being utilized. You need to know a bit more about. You need to have that comprehensive insight about that particular malware and how it is really, causing havoc in the industry or based on some of those cyber attacks, and what additional research pointers that can be presented so that your operations is more impacted. So I would like to wrap this up by summarizing, right? How do we really leverage these 6 areas of threat intelligence across 3 layers? We have seen those 6 areas. We've seen the attack surface, vulnerability intelligence, brand intelligence, situational awareness intelligence, digital risk protection, as well as cyber intelligence. No other organization out there does all these together. No other organization out there helps organizations manage the external threat landscape and manage external cyber risks, and help them manage their threat discovery and threat hunting capabilities, all in one platform. Utilizing this, executives can have a better view about strategic intelligence, so that they can better articulate and define their cyber strategy and roadmap. They can do better decisions so that they get a better ROI by understanding what are really those threat situations surrounding the organization. What's really happening out there? Can I understand a reason why my particular organization is being targeted? What is the motive of that attacker, right? And where I should be investing in the next set of initiatives that we need to plan for my team and for my organization. And can I have a better decision-making process so that we can make more informed decisions, not based on what is existing only in my perimeter, but understanding who are those movers and shakers, and what are the details which are getting discussed, which are getting identified in my external threat and risk landscape. It's about giving the security managers that view of being a journey-based view, telling them, okay, this is how at a management layer we can help get better processes, better policies, better procedures, and can we improve our governance, or can we improve overall, let's say, my incident response process based on threats that I'm facing, my cyber awareness process based on the kind of threats that we are facing. It's about understanding those campaigns that might be impacting or coming towards me as an organization. It's about understanding our public assets, our exposures, our attackers' perspectives, and how they are utilizing threat discovery, how they are utilizing some of those vulnerability intelligence pieces or digital risk exposures or brand intelligence nuances to really come and attack and create reputational damage and others to us. And it's all about that security practitioner who is all interested in leveraging cyber intelligence so that they can enhance and enact better security measures, right? It's about security measures which are aimed based on the attack methods that can be utilized by the attackers. It's about identifying and enriching those IOCs that are being utilized by those threat actors. Really, it's about what is happening and what is coming towards me as an organization. Who are those movers and takers who are making an impact into the industry, geography, and technology there I am operating in or I am adopting. It's all about understanding all these pieces. All right. Apologies if I went at a bullet train speed rather. But I hope I was able to cover some of the scenarios and make a difference, an intelligence-oriented difference to your understanding of what are those risks that you might be facing and how they can be really addressed utilizing Decipher, cyber intelligence, and our capabilities.
Thank you, Saurabh. This has been so enlightening, right? Understanding how to use cyber intelligence properly is really the key to defending all our crown jewels.